what does that mean for average people? Well, it really brings the speed and usability of Web 2 to Web 3. And a lot of Web 3, in my opinion, is basically just using gimmicks right now. Okay, you can write data to blockchain, you've executed a smart contract, but how do you know? Well,
Hmm.
you have to trust this server over here, or you have to trust this thing that's giving your data back. So what's the point? I guess that's cool, but if there's a point of failure somewhere, it's almost meaningless in my opinion.
This podcast is sponsored by Coin ATM Radar. When buying crypto with cash, an ATM is much more reliable and safer than meeting some random person in a random place. And unlike an exchange, which could freeze your account, you truly own all the crypto you buy. With Coin ATM Radar, you could find crypto ATMs and other services where you can buy and sell cryptocurrencies for cash. On their website, you can search by coin, address, if the ATM supports selling as well as buying, and you can also search by geo area, country, state, city. You can also check and compare actual current fees at different ATMs. If you want to find out more, head over to coinatmradar.com, which is coinatmradar.com. Many years ago, I got involved with cryptocurrency, first starting with Bitcoin, because of its prospects of being digital cash, money that no one can censor, no one can trace, hopefully, that just lets people do whatever they want. I heard about Dash somewhere in 2014, kind of followed it loosely over the years, but it wasn't until the end of 2016 or so that I got very interested because of a little thing called Evolution, which was supposed to be a project to add usability features like usernames, contact lists, etc. I saw that as imperative for kind of crossing that last barrier to getting the average person using this who doesn't want to deal with long, confusing hashes and all this nerd stuff. And so I got pretty involved with the Dash project from then on up until this moment today, on the promise of evolution. It went through many years of delays, and at some point I didn't really think it was ever coming out. Finally this year, it did launch. And so I caught up with the lead developer, Sam Westrich, aka Quantum Explorer, the CTO of Dash Core Group, to kind of break down evolution, how it works, why do we really need to care? And of course, full disclosure, this year I've been working full-time for Dash in a completely different capacity. So Sam is sort of one of my coworkers, but I definitely felt like this was important enough that this needed to extend outside of just my day-to-day work and kind of share with all my channels, followers, etc. So here you go, enjoy. All right, so hey everyone, I have the fantastic pleasure of speaking with the one and only Quantum Explorer, also known in the real world as Sam Westrich. How's it going, man?
Very, very good. Nice of you to have me on here.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that obviously I've been interested in a lot of things in the crypto space over the years. And, Dash was on my radar from like the 2014 era, 15, 16 era in there. But what really sold me and got me excited was when I heard some of Evan Duffield's speeches on evolution and just this idea of like, because I was dealing with Bitcoin at the time and it was working okay, but just the ideas of like all these cool usability features was like, this is what I have to do. And, that's a long time ago, right? That's like 8 years ago. But then finally, as of a month or so ago, we have Evolution launched on Dash, and I'm sure it looks extremely different than the conceptualizations of the early days as far as like the nuts and bolts. And a lot of people honestly forgot what it was, and it is a lot more than usernames and contact lists apparently. And so, yeah, let's just dive into this thing. So, really quick, what would you say? What is Dash Evolution?
Oh, okay. Well, that one's a hard one. Um, I guess it started out with a vision of what crypto could be,
Mm-hmm.
and we've built on that vision. So right now, it is the ability to basically get any data from the blockchain instantaneously and without the need for a third party, and have it be completely trusted. So, that might sound a little bit technical, and it is.
Hmm.
But what does that mean for average people? Well, it really brings the speed and usability of Web 2 to, Web 3. And a lot of Web 3, in my opinion, is basically just using gimmicks right now. Um, they're using, okay, you can write data to blockchain, but uh, great, you've executed a smart contract, but how do you know? Well,
Hmm.
you have to trust this server over here, or you have to trust this thing that's giving your data back. So what's the point? Like, okay, yes, you can execute something in a smart contract. I guess that's cool, but if there's a point of failure somewhere, that well, it's almost meaningless in my opinion. And I think
Yeah.
that was also the opinion of a lot of other people at the beginning. However, it was not easy to build what we've built. It was
Hmm.
actually extremely hard. So now that we've built it, um, it's a little bit rough on the edges. The release went great. Um, I was giving it a 66% chance of a chain halt in the first 10 days, and it hasn't had a chain halt.
Yeah.
Um, we focused on three main aspects, um, basically the release, and then stability, and then usability. And in terms of release, you know, I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10. There were a few delays at the beginning, but it
Hmm.
went very well. In terms of stability, it's been maybe a 9 out of 10. We've had some issues, that have required hot fixes and patches, but so far so good. Now, in terms of the usability, that's where we're having a little bit of a problem. So we
Hmm.
have this really powerful engine, um, and it's very hard to use at the moment.
Mm.
So we're going to be really focusing on that
I like
for the
user
upcoming few
facing tools and things.
user. Yeah, exactly. So like right now we have a username voting contest going on, but nobody can get their names because the only way to do it
Hmm.
is through a terminal interface, which obviously is a little ridiculous. But we can only do so much with a pretty lean team. So we're building one thing and then we're building the next thing and
Yeah.
going as fast as we can.
So let's kind of drill on down on the kind of what has been built thing. So
Mhm.
for those who are relatively familiar with Dash, it's a Bitcoin based UTXO blockchain that has a lot of extra cool stuff with the master network that provides a lot of next level special features, but it's still got kind of like a legacy structure. And so, obviously, from my understanding, evolution is not just stuff tacked on to the old UTXO blockchain and everything like that. It's like a new chain and everything else. Do you want to kind of go over very quickly kind of the structure of the whole evolution system and how it interacts with what we could call, I guess, legacy Dash?
Sure. So um, let's say the core payment chain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to call it legacy dash. I'm going to call it the core payment chain
Yes, the
because
core
it's still
chain.
great. It's still great for payments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's based off of proof of work generally, with some proof of stake elements on top.
Mm-hmm.
However, the um, the platform chain basically, evo is a combination of both. It's like a
Yeah.
whole architectural system. The chain itself, we kept calling it the platform chain. The
Mm-hmm.
platform chain has it's a scalable Byzantine fault tolerant system, which
Mm-hmm.
is actually, I believe, the first scalable Byzantine fault tolerant system to come out. Maybe the second. I believe there could be, I think it's called Internet Computer. That is another one.
Mm-hmm.
But but there are very, very, very few SBFT based systems. And what's very good about it, it's in the name, scalable Byzantine fault tolerance. It actually is much more scalable than practical Byzantine fault tolerance that exists in other places. But this is probably too technical.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, PBFT. What uses practical Byzantine fault tolerance, just for context?
Cosmos.
Hmm.
Um, I believe Ethereum, but I'm not actually sure.
Yeah. So kind
Does
of like,
it?
I haven't heard that term specifically in regards to that, but definitely it's in the Cosmos verse, and there are so many different Cosmos based chains out there that therefore use it. Um, what's the big, what like high level, I guess? What's the difference between the two? What makes the scalable one scalable?
Using threshold signatures.
Hmm.
Um, so in practical Byzantine fault tolerance, you have all the different nodes that sign in consensus, but then their signature,
Hmm.
any node on the network to verify a block needs to take all the signatures and then verify them.
Hmm.
In scalable Byzantine fault tolerance, only the validators actually get all the signatures. Then they threshold recover one signature that anybody can then verify. So this is also true for light clients.
Hmm.
So the difference is that light clients, somebody who just wants to know data from the chain,
Yeah.
they don't need to take 100 signatures or 67 signatures. They can verify it with just one. And verifying 67 signatures is actually very time consuming. It's
Mm.
very, like, you have to download, like, that's a lot of data for every single data, every single thing that you want to verify. On top of it, well, verifying 67 signatures is much slower than verifying just one. So it would make a lot of, it's not really very optimized for light clients, for mobile, for web, for everything that really like people use nowadays.
Hmm.
So we decided, like, okay, we really wanted to make the system scalable and work well for mobile, for web. And that's why we created like this whole mechanism.
Hmm.
Uh, it started back in 2018, and yeah, and it was built around 2018, 2019, when we had the long living Mastodon quorums, and that's where the first big work took place.
Yeah.
uh,
So you got this chain, right? This new chain that can do data
mhm.
and stuff like that. And then, from my understanding, one of the biggest um, elements of the Evolution platform is data storage. So,
Yes.
in a database system. So, you want to kind of go over how that works real quick?
Yes. So if you would imagine like Ethereum brought programming into blockchain, I
Mm-hmm.
would say um, we're bringing database into blockchain
Mm.
with platform. And then so we tackled another aspect that was extremely hard to tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now that that's good, we're going to basically take the second part and put it on top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the data in a system is, in my opinion, more difficult to handle than changing aspects of the system or
Yeah.
creating state transitions. Yeah. So that's what we built. Decentralized database. So what's really impressive about it is that the data is actually replicated. Um, it uses a new database that we built.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
Of
no
course.
database like this existed.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so there were it's not even close, right? There were some research papers written by some very smart cryptographers on how to build such a database. And I actually reached out to the cryptographers back 2-3 years ago, and it was like, do you have like something that we can go off of, some actual code? And they were like, it's probably better you start from scratch.
Damn.
um, yeah, so we did. We not from scratch. We had a there were other projects that had some forms of AVL trees, and we use
Mm-hmm.
those trees. And on top of that, we're using like a very low level. We're building things on top of RocksDB.
Mm.
So yeah, we
And
yeah.
Rocks
So
was used by who again? Who was created by who?
Facebook.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
Facebook uses RocksDB. It's open source and has been for a very long time. So things that
Yeah.
are open source are fine.
Of course. Yeah. So you started with that point, and then where did you get to?
Yeah, so that was mostly 2022
Mm-hmm.
because this whole vision kind of collapsed without all the different parts. You
Mm-hmm.
needed SBFT, you needed this new type of database, you needed um, all the state transition handling. You needed all these different components, and um, when I kind of took over in
Mm-hmm.
2021, we didn't have any of them.
Mm.
We had the semblance of the SBFT. Not Yeah, we had the semblance of Tender Dash that I had started writing, and
Mm-hmm.
it was on its way. But yeah, we didn't have the database. We didn't have a lot of the code was in JavaScript. So basically, uh, me and a few others went in and tackled one big problem, and then one other big problem, and then
Mm-hmm.
one other big. Obviously, if we had had bigger, like different teams tackling problems, things might have gone a little bit faster. But
Yeah.
um, we had what we had, right? And in the end, it's all cohesive and it all works. But
Yeah.
the I think one of the biggest struggles that we're going to be having, at
Mm-hmm.
least for upcoming um, until we have smart contracts,
Mm-hmm.
is just the the difficulty convincing people to build on this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a developer and you can't write code, but you can only write like kind of a little bit of pseudocode, but that's like database,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to want to use it that
Mm-hmm.
much. Even though you can do many things, like you can build a marketplace because marketplaces are pretty much only data, right?
Yeah. Of course.
It's like buying and selling, and you just, I mean, when you buy something, it just transfers over. Like we have a basic functionality, but we don't have, if this person and that person want something, then this happens and that happens. Like we don't have conflict resolution, we don't have access control lists, we don't have a lot of things
Mm-hmm.
that would draw in developers, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. So it sounds like what was built was a data storage solution and database that is kind of unique, that no one else has really done anything like that. And it seems like the next step is to kind of catch up to the whole smart contract thing, get programmability in there, and then you'll have what everyone else has, sort of, but then also something very unique that was already released that no one else has. Is that kind of a good overview?
Exactly. And if you couple that with usability, then it's just like, I mean, kind of want to say checkmate to any other project because we can get finality in 2 3 seconds, right? That's faster than anybody else. We can get program, like you can program it. You can query the data without use of any third party system, right? I mean, what more do people
Yeah.
want?
Yeah.
Like,
So it's kind of like the goal is to build like the as of now at least the most like up to date, useful blockchain out there for data payments, all that kind of stuff. And as far as like no one else has it, I mean, there's always going to be the technology marches on. People are always building stuff, but it's kind of like as of right now, from where we're looking at, this could be something that's completely a completely unique full package that others don't really have, right?
exactly, with decentralized identities, with uh, anonymous payments through
Mm-hmm.
the core payment chain. There's a lot of stuff in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people will become very interested as time goes on. Uh, right now, it is understandable why they would not be. The smart. It was always known that the without smart contracts, we would have a problem. You know,
Mm-hmm.
getting developers interested, especially that we're now in 2024, right?
Yeah.
We need like a very streamlined thing. We need like a website that explains exactly what to do. We
Mm-hmm.
need tutorials explaining exactly how to code. We need integration into IDEs. IDEs, for people who don't know, are where you program. So
Yeah.
it's very simple. We need a package that when you write your smart contract or where you write your data contract, it immediately goes to a testnet environment that like is local to your machine, so you can test really quickly. We need all of that, but we will get it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just a matter of, I mean, the hard part has been done.
Yeah.
The innovation. So like once we add in these other things,
Yeah.
I think we'll 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 start to see like a lot of usage.
Yeah. So real quick, let's kind of drill down on that key value proposition
Hmm.
because, uh, as for example, a pretty non-technical person myself, I've been trying to keep up with how everything works, and there's a lot of like taking words for it, like, oh, this sounds exciting. The way you explain it is great, and also a lot of Dash's stuff has been built internally where a few people in Dash, I would say a very small amount of people in Dash, really understand how it works and why does it have to be this way. The rest of the crypto world, no idea. Not at all. They don't know what the hell's going on, what's been built, why does it matter. And so if you could describe, I think you hit on a few points. We kept talking about you don't need to trust third parties, and in particular for things like indexers and running a node and these other services that work out. I'm not really an ETH guy or a smart contract. I don't know that much about that stuff. So for people like me who don't know this kind of stuff, I guess people already thought if you build on like a Ethereum or a Solana or one of these kinds of things, that because it's on the blockchain and all that, it's already decentralized. You already don't need to trust third parties. It's kind of the value proposition of crypto to begin with, right? So how is that not true? And Dash is kind of more true to that original vision.
Yeah, so it all is a little bit nuanced.
Of course.
But yes, so in various places, like let's imagine you store data on Solana or you store
Hmm.
data on Ethereum. How then, as a user, let's imagine you're a web user who wants to go on something, how
Hmm.
then do you verify the authenticity of that data?
Yeah, and because you
Well,
need to, because otherwise someone could spoof it, right?
exactly. Somebody can spoof it. So, like, okay, some solutions are a centralized third party that you have to trust, right? Okay,
Hmm.
then what's the point of a blockchain? Some solutions are, well, you have to sync all the chain, either in
Hmm.
SPV mode, or that's basically what Bitcoin does. If you don't trust a third party, if you were ever using Bread Wallet, or there were a lot of wallets
Hmm.
in while ago. I don't know if they still do it that way because it's a somewhat of a less good user experience. There's a lot of syncing involved, and
Hmm.
it's like true to Satoshi's original vision for
Yeah.
SPV.
It's so just as a little bit of a side note on that, like I've been syncing a Zcash wallet for some accounting purposes that I want to write everything down, and it's been like it took like 16 hours or something to sync from original on this just a mobile like client, just pure transaction thing. Obviously, zero knowledge stuff, which is some incredible tech, adds some extra complexity. But yeah, still, I understand the pain of syncing. I've been syncing a lot of things in my life, and I don't like it.
And sometimes it's not. What's even more painful about syncing is that,
Hmm.
like, okay, you have an amazing internet connection. why is it so slow?
Yeah.
I can download all of this data in like 10 minutes, but
Hmm.
why does it take this long to sync? Well, it's so complicated because it has to do one crypto function before it requests the next block, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of optimization that can still happen in a lot of these things. So if you say it took 16 hours, I'm sure there's
Yeah.
more optimization that could happen.
Yeah,
But
probably. But so like, so let's say there's like a enterprising Solana or Ethereum developer, and
mhm.
they have to, when they're building an app or whatever, in order for people to interact with it, they need certain things. So like, I hear people use, for example, Infura as like a node
Mhm.
service, and then there must be, what are the other things like that that they would need, that then if you're like, if you build on Dash, let's just assume Dash plus smart contracts is will hopefully happen soon. What will they just not need then?
Um, I haven't looked at this for about a year, so
Mm-hmm.
I need to refresh my memory. But I believe that they even talk about uh, crypto stacks, right? Where
Yeah.
you can use like GraphQL or different blockchains
Mm-hmm.
to make services that you don't have in all blockchains. So then you just use multiple blockchains
Mm-hmm.
um, in in uh, in or you use like a centralized party. I am not. Uh, I haven't been following for the last year. I've been
Yes.
really hard down. So, um, we from what I remember,
Mm-hmm.
from what I know,
Yeah,
yes,
just
it's
general
generally like,
concepts, you know.
yeah, you write the code, and then you push the code, and that's the easy part, right? Some systems basically each like account has their own space where they write to. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's how Solana works. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how Solana works. So you have your area, your storage space, but you can't mix with other people's storage space. So your
Mm.
contract is its own. But if you do that way, I believe like not everybody can write in to the same space. So everybody has their own
It's
space
like a
that they
siloed
write.
thing.
Kind of, yeah. So everybody has their own space. So then it's impossible to query data from, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you need like third-party indexers that go in, look at everybody's space. And I think this is Solana. It could be a different blockchain that does it
Mm.
this way. Uh, yeah. So, but I mean, that's not great because, well, you're literally just trusting these third-party indexers, and that's what the developers have to deal with. It's also quite complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the vision that I have is you write smart contract code on Dash just as you would write normal code, right?
Mm-hmm.
You write and you create your data structures. You just mark them as being searchable, and you want to say how you search for the data contract in the data structure, and then you just push your code, um, and then people can use it immediately.
Yeah.
Like no extra setup. There's no there's no backend server that you have to then use against the blockchain. No, it's just done.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be a really good value proposition to developers, especially you know you know with AI going forward, right? Because what
Mm-hmm.
coding, in my opinion, is going to become a much easier task
Yeah. Of course.
because AI is just going to help people, code, right? So you're going to say, I want this, I want that. The AI, if they don't generate all the code, they're going to generate like 90%, and then you just have to fill in the blanks or verify that everything works.
Mm-hmm.
But then what then is complicated? Well, the complicated part is all the, you know, uh, extra stuff that you have to do, like getting the system working, like integrating with this other party. And AI is probably not going to be. I mean, probably eventually will be good enough with agents, but for a while, I don't think we'll have that covered for you. So
Yeah.
this one and done system probably will be quite appealing.
Yeah. So it seems like the value proposition is kind of like from two sides. On one hand, you can just use it as opposed to, well, use it and then you have to buy these extra expansion packs, right, to plug
Yeah.
on to use it. So it's the simplicity on one side. On the other side, if you care about blockchain principles of decentralization, trust minimization, you can also
Mhm.
just use the chain and you don't have to add in a bunch of trusted third parties to help facilitate your usage of that chain. Is that kind of an accurate breakdown?
Yeah, yeah, that is accurate.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. So as far as I know we're in Excel. We'll talk a little about the accelerator release and the other stuff in just a second. But like, as far as we just got this thing out the door. It's
Mhm.
very new. It's mainnet, and there are real transactions and real things going on. But there's almost no user interfaces for it yet, so it's still kind of in a testnetty vibe phase. But as far as like, this is a system for building things on top of. And out the
Mhm.
gate, from my understanding, there were two adapts that kind of came out with the system, which were DPNS and DashPay. And DPNS is a username registry, and DashPay is a payment app kind of architecture that lets people make connections between each other and transmit data and stuff. Do you want to sort of go over those two real quick and just say like how are they similar or different from other things, and kind of what's cool or unique about them, and why are they crucial for like the first two use cases for this chain?
Sure, sure. So, which one to start off with first? I guess
I guess
DPNS. So,
DPNS because it seems more similar to things because we have ENS, you have unstoppable domains. There's dozens actually of different username registries across the different blockchains, and so it's probably more familiar, right?
yeah, it's also probably the less innovative of the two, right?
Yeah, so start easy.
So yeah, Dash Pay Dash Platform Name Service or Dash Pay Name Service. Uh, so yeah, it works a little bit like ENS. I think what we have a little bit differently here is a little bit. We have a system called contested names, right? It's actually built the the into evolution, where in a data contract you can mark a resource as contested,
Okay.
and that is actually a feature of Evo that is being applied to DPNS, but it can be applied to anybody who wants to write a contract for it, right? And we can have different contests and different contested types of things in the future. Yeah, and anybody can program it in. So when you have something that's contested, that basically means more than one person wants something that's unique, right? That, or maybe not even unique. Maybe there's only four or like 10 of these things in the world. And how do they get it, right? So there are multiple types of resolutions. One of them is bidding. Bidding, I want this, you want that. Let's see who has the bigger wallet, right? Another one is that we're using right now for names is voting. So Evo nodes and master nodes, and Evo nodes and master nodes on our system are basically the bigger stakeholders. They run a node that actually, or an Evo node that runs the platform chain, and for master nodes that help facilitate transactions and a lot of other things on the payment chain, as well as our governance, and there's so much more, but
Yeah, of
we won't
course.
get into that. We won't go into that right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
So basically, there's a way with DPNS to vote over some usernames, right? And I do notice on this list here, there was a username called Quantum on there. that was contested. It says on this site, yeah, shout out to XKCD for this making the site. It says that the voting time has passed. So did you get it, or did you even register that?
Oh, is it pass? It's supposed to.
Eh, maybe it's not. But
I thought
anyway,
it was. Let's see.
it says
Oh, I
voting.
got it.
Oh, you did get
It's
it.
no, 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 no. Sorry, the time to contest this resource has passed.
Okay, so
But
you basically are going to wind up by default because no one else is trying to contest it with you.
well, people can still vote for me to not get it.
Yes.
Please.
But
When
so
are you
far it's looking good for you.
when are
Yeah.
you releasing this?
Like very soon. So it
Oh
should all be
no.
current. But so I guess the point is, this is kind of interesting with usernames because mostly in most username systems, you mentioned bidding, but also most username systems in decentralized ways tend to just be first come first serve. You get it, you get it. That's fine, and you could maybe sell it or transfer it, which is good. I think it's great that you can, but at the same time, you have this rush for like username camping where someone can just dump over the whole thing, just ruin it for everybody by vacuuming everything up. And then the
Hmm.
way you fix that typically is through centralization, through a centralized control with someone saying, acting as daddy, saying, hey, break it up. That's his. And so
Hmm.
in this case, and to use, of course, the username quantum as an example right there, you said, I want that. Someone could have said, I also want that, but didn't. But if they had, people would have been able to vote to award it to the rightful owner. And hopefully they choose right in the case of you, unless they just really
Well,
hate
there
you
is
for
no
some
right,
reason.
right? It's really a
Yes,
popularity contest. But
amongst
like we have some
stakeholders.
other ones.
And then
Yeah, we have.
just to finish on that, but also there's the withhold option, right? Where no one gets it, which I assume would be if someone registers Microsoft and someone else
They
could
did.
test Microsoft and you could tell that it's not actually Microsoft. So rather than just say, well, I got to give it to one of these two, you're like, no one gets it.
Yeah, exactly. So right now, there somebody did try to get Microsoft, and they're 28 votes against.
Nice.
So so basically, like it's going to be locked. Even locked things can then be unlocked. There's an unlocking process as well, but it's not activated yet. We're planning on doing that a feature for next year. So uh, basically, you pay more, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can go down too. But with every one of these names that has made so far, everybody trying to kind of make a contest, any contested resource or contested name, um,
Mm-hmm.
has to pay zero point 0.2 dash. So, it is generating some fees.
It's an
And
anti-spam method for sure, at least.
yeah, one other thing that is going to be quite interesting is, right now it is extremely hard to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to do it through a terminal interface or a text user interface. Sorry.
Yeah.
But within, I would say, a week from now, we will have the ability to do it on Android, and we'll also have the ability to do it on a Dash Evo tool that I've been
Mm-hmm.
working really, really hard on for the last week and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all
So
coming together in a practical sense now.
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of, we built this cool system. Now we want people to be able to use it. And I think one of the real uh, sad parts, I would say, is that, yeah, when we released, it was like, cool. How
Mm-hmm.
do I use it? Oh, I can't?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. It gets a
So,
little annoying. But
I
yeah.
mean, that's what happened with the accelerated release, right? It's like you
Yeah.
like
Well, let's touch
we
on
can
that
only.
in just a second, but let's hit on that. So it seems like with the differentiating factor with this username system is that you have a much higher chance of getting a quality one. Whereas with other ones, because of first come first serve, there might be like some of the good ones are already taken, or you might
Mhm.
just have to trust a centralized party. And this is kind of the best of both worlds, where you could get a really good one that's not like quantum underscore explorer underscore blah blah blah, and which you
Mhm.
still can get those, but where you don't have to just settle for that. You can get a good one that, and you get it even if you don't rush to it and all that stuff. But so DashPay, and would you mind kind of running over what DashPay is? Because it's kind of a, as you mentioned, one of the biggest deals so far, but also probably very misunderstood.
Well, why do you think it's misunderstood before I go in?
Part of
I'm
it is
curious.
the naming conventions. I know some people, including in my life, have mistakenly called DashPay like the entire project DashPay because there is some
Oh,
branding on like the X account and stuff. I know some people are calling. I know the wallet is being the Dash wallet is being called DashPay, and then there's this data contract, which it interfaces with usernames from DPNS, but that isn't part of DashPay. So DashPay, the data contract, the actual thing on the Evolution platform, what is it and
yes.
what does it do?
So it's basically a way to make secure channels
Mm-hmm.
between virtual channels for payments between individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean? Well, I make a friend request to you, you make a friend request to me, something like that happens, and now we have a channel to pay each other where I can pay you, you can pay me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll always know it's you. It will always be a different address on the chain, right? So it'll
Yeah.
always look different, like I'm paying somebody different. I'll know that I'm always paying you. If I receive something from you, I'll know it always is coming from you, but nobody else will,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe with chain analysis, but on top of that, if you use CoinJoin, right, then that coin analysis goes away. So, you know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
with things like unstoppable domains, there is zero privacy. When you
Yeah.
send something on Ethereum, there is zero privacy. Like you, let's say
Mm-hmm.
you buy you buy a plane ticket, um, with your balance, and you know, based off of some information about what you're buying and the exact price, somebody could figure out, oh, he's flying from here to here because that's the only thing that costs that amount for that time. And then somebody could be waiting for you at some airport where you're going, right?
Yeah.
This is not possible with DashPay because um, it's basically like uh, nobody knows who you're paying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not, hey, I'm paying this airline, or I'm paying this person, or I'm paying, people will just say see address to address, whereas
Yes.
unstoppable domains, it's not like that at all, right? Everybody sees everything.
Yeah, and it's kind of worth pointing out too that
Mhm.
in first off, this concept of an address that you can send to, but it doesn't expose the actual blockchain address publicly and might get a new one every time, for example, is technically like a stealth address. And there's a few stealth addressing schemes out there for different blockchains. A lot of them have weird quirks, such as needing extra scanning time on the chain to be able to figure things out, or you have to send an initial payment to that address and things like that. But
Mhm.
it kind of like it acts as a stealth address as a privacy improvement. But as far as, so you get the connection, which allows you to exchange addresses. So every time you hit it up, you get a new address. What else can it do now? And what else could it maybe do in the future as far as like the data you pass between these users?
Well, I mean, it's not gonna it's not gonna serve you breakfast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're it's meant for a single use case, and that is
Yes.
to send money between uh, people like that or that you don't know, right? But
Yeah.
uh, if we wanted to create like a messaging service or anything like that, that's currently possible on platform like um, X, or
Mm-hmm.
any social system, social messaging service, that's possible right now to
Mm-hmm.
do. but you wouldn't put it in DashPay. I mean, you just do a new contract. It just let's we shouldn't add every feature to. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no point. Just do a new
Hmm.
contract. But for DashPay, yeah, in the mobile apps, what it will look like is you'll see like your contact list, and oh, I want to send money to grandma. Press on grandma, just say,
Hmm.
okay, I want to send 5 Dash.
Yeah.
Hopefully, grandma knows how to use crypto.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, Dashy Grandma. Yeah. So basically, it's like for this very smooth payment experience is kind of what we're getting right out the gate. So now let's talk a little bit about the accelerated release or like how we got here.
Mhm.
So not so much just the accelerated release, but for a big picture. And I'm sure there's tons of details and internal drama, and we could do like a uncensored like 8 hour long podcast or whatever. But basically, Evan, bless his heart, started talking about evolution almost exactly 9 years ago. It was on October of 2015 when he presented at Bitcoin Wednesday in Amsterdam, and it's obviously extremely different today, but the ideas were the same of like what we're trying to achieve for the user as a payment experience. But then there was some other communications about, oh, well, we're working on something and it's changed, and just there's all these Neverlution memes out there over the years,
Mhm.
which we could finally put to rest because it happened. So it's not never; it was just 2024 Lucian, right? It just finally launched then. So
It was
you,
restarted a few times, I would say, almost.
yeah. So you jumped
Or
on board kind of in earnest in 2021. Can you
yeah,
kind of give a brief overview of, I guess, like the chaotic, just get it work with a skeleton crew kind of path from then to finally getting a release out the door?
sure, sure. So, um, well, but let me start from a little bit earlier. So I
Mm-hmm.
was head of the football team, right? And I had built DashPay, and we had demos of DashPay working in 2020, and it worked, but it worked in the sense that it was connecting, and 50% of the time the blockchain was dying within a few minutes, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there were you had no proofs of the data that you got back were accurate. There was it, it was working as a proof of concept against the application layer worked fine.
Mm-hmm.
What wasn't working fine was the blockchain layer,
It
uh,
sounds like a big problem.
which is a pretty big problem. Back then, during that prototype phase, there were literally 4 databases holding
Mm-hmm.
the same data. So there was, yeah, it was,
Damn.
it was, it was
Messy.
impossible. It was extremely messy. It was impossible to take that to production. And when I started looking into it, um, you know, I was not happy. And, for somebody from a different team coming in and saying, no, you're doing things wrong, this is not good,
Mm-hmm.
I was pushed aside quite a lot. Um, but over time, you can only be pushed aside so long. Whereas, like, I told you so, I told you so.
Yeah. Which, as
So
annoying
eventually,
as that can be, at some point it
yeah,
just is what it is, right?
yeah. And I mean, history has proved me right, right? In the end,
Yeah,
like,
because we have Evo and we didn't.
we have it now.
We have it and we didn't have it.
It was built. It took a lot of effort. Uh, and I said, like, it's going to take a lot of effort because we have to build this component, we have to build this
Mm-hmm.
component. Like, all of these things have never been done before. We can't just go in and take this project left or right. They don't have the functionality that we want in yeah. So we have to build a lot of this stuff almost from scratch. um, and that was not very well accepted in 2018, 2019, 2020, because it was like, let's get this out within 6 months. And the answer that I was like saying, well, go ahead and try, but you're not going to manage. It's like saying, we want to go to Mars in 6 months. It's not really going to happen. It takes a lot of effort, and we've seen that actually with SpaceX, right?
Yeah, of course.
Maybe this decade.
Yeah, definitely not by the
So
time this thing is released.
yeah, some people thought we'd get to Mars before evolution, but
Yeah, you beat them. Got
I
ahead.
beat them. Okay, so yeah, how did it go after I basically took the reins? So
Mm-hmm.
we luckily had a nice little budget because the first, in 2020 or 2021, there was the bull market, and the price of Dash, you know, went way up, and the price of all cryptos went way up, and that allowed us to have some reserve. With that reserve, I hired tons of new developers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That were needed. Like I spent
It's a
so
lot of
much
money.
time finding
Mm-hmm.
new talent, bringing them into the project, explaining the vision, getting them onboarded, and yeah, we um, you know put different people on different parts that were needed,
Mm-hmm.
and I started working really hard on the database. And yeah, we Grove DB was basically the major part of my 2022. Um, and I thought that the rest would get done properly in the meantime.
Mm.
And it really didn't. Um, I was looking at things, but when you're razor focused on, your team of two or three people, well, three people at the time, me and two others, and, building this really, hard database that had never been built before, I neglected some parts that even if I had gone in, wouldn't have changed anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, because yes, I could have fired people, but that would not have really gotten us closer to the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, once that was done, then me and some other people went into some other parts, and then we went into some other parts, and eventually it was all built.
Mm-hmm.
Took a lot of time.
Yeah.
We had hoped to be able to reuse some of the code that had existed like pre 2021, but really very little in the end it stayed. So probably we, from what existed in 2021, um, early 2021 or mid 2021, probably only 5% remains.
Yeah. So basically, almost like a completely new thing in that time,
Yeah,
which is kind of
yeah.
crazy to think about. Where, I mean, I'm sure this happens with a lot of projects trying to build something really new and cool. You have to start from zero over and over again sometimes. But one thing I think is very interesting, and is that most of the community had no idea where we were there versus now. And I think that previous, I guess, iterations of Dash Core Group and leadership were very shy about owning up to realistic shortcomings or failures or whatever, and are very quiet about that. And it seems like things have been much more out in the open as far as like what's happening, where we are, what we need, etc. And so that kind of takes us to the accelerated release, right? Because
Mhm.
there were projections or hopes that we'd have some kind of like early, kind of like a Q1 release or something like that, and then like you know stuff happens, stuff breaks, you need to do new stuff, and eventually, yeah. So how did this accelerated release kind of concept come out, and then the proposal?
Um, it come out of discussions with a lot of community members
Hmm.
that were saying release whatever you have,
Yeah.
and they but that those things were going on for literally 2-3 years, right? People have been telling me that.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I saw a path forward to actually release something that could work.
Mm-hmm.
Before, it just wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Even even if we had the week before, I found incredible issues with platform, right, in the last week of testing that I was able to fix by not sleeping for a week. Um,
Well, not just
Basic.
not sleeping, but not sleeping and working your ass off in the meantime.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, working my ass off. And these were problems in Grove DB and in other places that literally nobody else knew how to fix, right? And were really, really hard. So,
Yes.
but hey, the fix works.
Yeah. So
We
so
can see
there
that
was a
for 100.
proposal that
Yeah.
basically, I believe you
Oh,
put in the proposal, right?
oh yeah,
About,
yeah, yeah.
so people were asking just release now, and then you said you wanted to put it to a network wide vote, which again, for people who aren't super familiar with Dash, it's the oldest DAO, and there have been governance proposals for major decisions since, I would say, January of 2016, when Evan put in, should we increase the block size rather than do all off chain scaling? And since then, there's been a lot of those. So, yeah, this proposal came out. You put it in. What did you think about the result?
The result was like razor thin because I had said that it would pass if we got 67% or more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it came back at 68. And it was actually funny because, well, I voted for,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was really not sure though. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, if I vote for this, it's going to be so painful over the next 2 months. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna. And then I was like, okay, but I'm doing it. But
Mm-hmm.
even to the last minute, like I was just like my mouse hovering over the no, because it only takes one vote to really change it to under the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, no, I stayed on. Let's do it. Let's kill ourselves a little and get it out there. Do our best. Yeah, and it passed. The original date I think was sometime in August.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we actually had a big issue on Core that made the activation of Core, I believe, had a problem. And because of that, we had to delay the activation of platform by a week,
Mm-hmm.
which gave us time to do the last fixes. So we actually were not ready, but we were
Yes.
ready 1 week later.
Yes.
And yeah, and it came out. And actually, with the upgrade process that happened, we only got at the very beginning 66% of people having upgraded,
Mm-hmm.
and we needed 67, and we just were not getting there.
Yes.
So we at that point we only had 66. We didn't have 67. But we actually also found another issue in the. We decided, okay, let's make another version, push it out, and hopefully now people will upgrade and we'll get to 67. New thing comes around and we're only at 65.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I said, okay, these guys have not upgraded. If we just get two of these to upgrade, the chain will start. Somebody reached out to me and was like, I think I still have my old keys, my old Dash D, but I'm not really sure. At that point, I was like, oh, I I think I can figure out how to do this. So then I took the Dash D and tried to like move it over like the keys that were necessary to start the chain on those two nodes. Um, Thankfully, that guy gave me access to his two nodes,
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, um, it didn't work. And I was like, but this should work in theory. And then I realized that Core had a prevention against this.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to make a specialized version of Core, um, and then finally sign this message. And a day later, the chain started with exactly 67 and immediately switched to a new quorum that had a much higher percentage that
Yeah.
of act.
Yeah, I remember those kind of by the skin of your teeth, like upgrade moments when it's like everyone's rushing to upgrade. And like
Uh-huh.
I'm sure in a more like delayed release kind of situation, there would just be, here we go, it's out, upgrade, and it's probably going to work, and that's it. How? But there's been many, many, many smaller upgrades and patches and things. Do you know? Do you off the top of your head have an exact number of if you include the original? There was the original core release that would make Evo launch eventually, and then all the platform releases since then. Do you have off the top of your head? Do you remember the exact number of different ones? What are we up to right now?
Well, I think we did one dot. So we had. So we actually, I think, started with 1.1, then it was 1.2, then 1.3, 1.3.1, 1.4, and 1.4.1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and 1.4.1 was kind of like a hot fix
Yeah.
type situation that um, yeah, that solved a kind of a critical issue,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody knows and nobody will ever know.
Yeah, for sure. Which is
unless you
probably
look
better
at
that
our
way.
unless you look at our code. It's not, nobody could have lost money, but
Yes.
it was not good. It could have stalled the chain.
But so it seems like we've kind of gotten this thing out the door as fast as it has been able, and I've had a bunch of small iterative releases to add things like withdrawals to credits to the main
Mhm.
dash chain and other little bug fixes and stuff. And I've heard a couple, and thankfully very few, but a couple of small complaints about, oh, it's bumpy. I don't know how to do this. How do I register this username? How do I do this? There's nothing built for it. Blah blah blah. And it's kind of like the it's kind of like the cost of releasing early, which is you don't have everything ready. It's just it's early, and from my perspective and opinion, I think it's well worth the cost to have something out there, something working, something that you could start building around. And obviously, it's annoying to try to announce a release when every little component that makes up something the end user can use kind of comes out separately. But it's kind of like, I think it's a price I'd pay gladly, personally.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to each approach. At least like this, people know that something exists, right? And it actually works. And you can check with dash.vote. You can see the blockchain working with the platform explorer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, this technology is out there. It's been built. It works, and I think that that is very useful because we did have a lot of people that were saying, "Oh, it will never come out. They don't know what they're doing." Well, no, we know what we're doing. It's just a lot of work. At this point, you know, I've even stopped building new features.
Mm-hmm.
So my original goal was right after withdrawals, go in and build fungible tokens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had to take a step back from that goal to basically realize that we need people able to see platform a little bit more before we
Mm-hmm.
move on, right? We need people to be able to interact with it easily in a fun way, build their own contracts easily, all that. So that's going to be my main goal for the next probably till the end of this month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a long time, but enough to get something out there to get other team members on track to continue that while I go in for fungible tokens.
Yeah.
So that's basically kind of like the plan. So we're going to release this Dash Evo tool within by Monday at the latest, right?
Yes.
So I think, when do withdrawals start? That's a good question. Let's see. 1 second.
Somewhere around there, I think, right? It's got to be close to the
Uh,
same time.
on the 21st. So yeah, but
Yeah,
basically, even
same thing.
probably earlier. We're probably going to release it probably on Thursday or Friday this week, right? It's going to be really rough, so
Yeah.
uh, people should not assume much. But what we'll have in the Dash Evo tool will be that will come out will be the ability to withdraw, to make transfers, and to vote. So those three functionality. Um, what we won't have, unless I can do it in time, which is like one in 100,
Yeah, of course.
is is the ability to create an identity.
Mm-hmm.
Remember this this Evo tool.
Mm-hmm.
Let me kind of explain how it started. I was annoyed, and I was like, wait, we we're not at a spot where people can create their usernames, um, and we can't. So I was like, okay, we have to give people the ability to use platform. So I was like, let's see how hard this is. I just started playing around with um, creating a UI, building all this. And then, I did not actually even tell the rest of the team. And then on
Mm-hmm.
Monday, after the weekend, I was like, look what I built.
Nice. A surprise as always.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
um,
So that's
it generally,
Monday. So basically, what we're looking at in the very immediate future, right, next few days, depending on when anyone watches this, is we get withdrawals and then we get this tool. So, what are the next, I don't know, few months look like? Do you think for Dash
yeah.
and or for the I guess the evolution side of things at least? Just what are the next things on the horizon that you're working on and people can expect?
Yeah, well, let's start with mobile team just before I get into that.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at DashPay and DashPay stability, I believe, for until the end of the year. I'm not, the Android wallet will come out quite soon. The iOS wallet a little bit later, and yeah, and I believe that those will actually, uh, while we do have QA, they'll you know be improvements or feedback from users, or there's going to be stuff to work there, probably till the end of the year, if not a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Then on for platform, and for Evo, we're going to basically be working on this usability, so improving the access to our SDKs and fungible tokens. For me, I'm going to be working on that, um, in mostly in November. And then in December, I'm going to be starting on smart contracts. Me and a few others are going to be starting on smart contracts.
Oh, very exciting.
So yeah, that's going to be very exciting. I already have like a vision of how I'd like to build it, but um, I'm actually going to take a different approach than just started coding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go in and I'm going to build a few contracts on Solana and Ethereum to really understand the pain and pitfalls that other people have had. Again, I've done that, but not well, actually never on Solana. But it's been so long, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, the whole thing has probably changed from a few years ago. So I really want to get up to date with what we can do better, um, before I go pretty hardcore in the coding.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, well, that's pretty cool, exciting things. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, thanks very much for doing this. It's been exciting. I mean, obviously, I've been very close to the matter, and it's I know that for many months I've been sort of saying, "How does this work? Why do we care? Tell me that." And you've just been like, "I'm building it. I can't talk about it yet." And now it's out, and
Hmm.
now I mean, obviously, I've done a bit the deepest dive I can so far. But it's good to kind of get something out there for the rest of the general world to just sort of understand the grand vision and where we're at, and that that we built something really special and we didn't just work on it. It's there. It exists. It's out. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's very cool
What
stuff.
what I'm really looking forward to is the day, maybe it's a year from now, when we can literally do a side by side comparison of somebody coding, for Dash Evo and somebody coding for another chain, or we can get like six different people, put them on each project, and see which one achieves their goals faster. And that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah,
Uh,
a hackathon even where you just
a hackathon,
build some
yes,
stuff on both, and then if everything goes according to plan, then you can interview some of the developers about why, how was it this way, how was it that way, and then just
exactly.
see what you got, put it out there, and make some buzz, which will be
Yeah,
my
yeah, that's
job.
important.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, I know I've been keeping you up pretty late, so I'll let you go now. But yeah, thanks very much for talking. I'll get this out pretty soon. And yeah, everyone else, thanks for watching.